Celtic 1, Hearts 2. How do you even start to talk about that? It was definitely an interesting game, depending on what side of the fence you are, I guess. Whether you're a Celtic fan, Hearts fan, or a neutral. But if you're a Celtic fan, I mean, you have to be extremely disappointed with that result. First thing I would say is the new manager, obviously Wilfried Nancy. I think a lot of people were interested going into the game to see if he was going to play the back three that people knew he played in the States, or if he was going to be safe and play the back four. He decided to play the back three, obviously, which we've seen. And I hope I've not actually looked at the reaction online purposely, mainly because I didn't want to sway my opinion, but also I couldn't really be bothered looking at it either, because I can kind of tell what some of the opinions will be. I think it'll be 50-50. I think there'll be some saying it was on the players, which, as you'll see in a minute, is my belief of what happened today. And there'll probably be some saying, oh, we should have kept Martin O'Neill because we were on winning ways. But I don't think the result would have been any different, especially if the players played like that, if O'Neill was in the dugout. I actually think the shape was fine. I thought we created a lot of chances, and if on another day I think Celtic probably won the game. Dyson Maeda has to find the net when he goes clean through, and Arnie Engels has to score the header. If he puts it either side of the goalkeeper, it's in. And then you're looking at the two goals that Celtic concede are just poor. The first one, the players just aren't awake to what's happening. They think it's an offside. Austin Truss on his backside. McGregor is really poor for the goal, and I thought he was probably a standout player in the game. But in that situation, he was really, really poor. And then the second goal's from a corner, which we've seen too many times before, how bad we are from set pieces, attacking them and defending them. And we know how good Hearts are from set pieces, which we should have been aware of. But we were poor. And it's a free header, and it lets them go 2-0 up, which pretty much killed the game. And after they go 2-0 up, we push and push and push. And it kind of seems like we could play all day, to be honest, and probably not score. And that nearly did happen, until Kieran Tierney busted the net late on, but it was far too late. And then of course the full-time whistle went, and Hearts got the 3 points again against us. Even though Hearts have been poor in the last couple of weeks, have been dropping points, we've caught up with them. We've still got a game in hand, but it's a pretty good result for Hearts after a couple of poor weeks for them. It gets them back in winning ways. As it's for Celtic, it's a poor defeat. They'll be kicking themselves, so the manager will be kicking himself. But I think what they have to do now is regroup. They've got a very tough game during the week against Roma, and I think they just have to be competitive there. And then the cup final against St Mirren is a must win. They need to win there, and then they have to go back to winning ways in the league and hope to get recruitments in January to suit how the manager plays, and they go for the title, because there will be no patience, I think, from a lot of fans. I think especially because of how Martin O'Neill did in his interim spell. I think the expectation is that Celtic have to win the league, and I'd agree with that, especially if Hearts win the league over Celtic. No disrespect to Hearts, but obviously the budget in comparison, obviously money isn't everything in football, which you've seen in the 2 games we've played against Hearts. Though today I feel Celtic probably were the better team, but they didn't take their chances. Hearts did, and Hearts defended brilliantly, like they have done a lot of this season, and Celtic were terrible defensively, especially in those 2 moments. But going back on the performance, I thought, especially opening the game, I thought Celtic were really good, and it kind of seemed like a matter of time before Celtic opened the scoring. Obviously, going back to the Maeda chance, he has to bury that to put Celtic in the lead, and it could be a completely different game, but he didn't, and Hearts held on till they got that goal with Braga. And there was poor moments in the game as well, especially on the ball. In the first half, Benjamin Nygren and Sebastian Teneke especially were extremely poor and really let down the side massively, I think, and probably should have been hooked at half time. Any time we were on the ball in good areas, you had Nygren who misplaced God knows how many passes trying to find Dyson Maeda. And you had Sebastian Teneke who just could not take on his man, or he was just making really bad decisions. And you can say that about both players, and maybe a couple of others as well. For me, the result is on the players. I think some of the decision making on the ball was horrendous, which just gave Hearts more and more confidence, and I think that's what gave them the 3 points. Obviously on top of how well they defended and how solid they were, and they took their chances. But I worry in terms of now again, I've not looked at the reaction, but I think there will be some in the Celtic support who might blame Nancy for that defeat, because they'll go, why they changed to the back three instead of sticking to the back four, which has worked. I don't think it's on the shape. I think we created chances, and I think on another day we probably won the game. I just think it was poor decision making from some of the players, and it cost us big time. And I think the only thing you could put at Nancy's door in terms of the game was probably not taking Taneke and Benjamin Negrin off a lot sooner. I think they shouldn't have seen the second half. I think there's no way that they could have seen the second half, considering how bad they were. And you could hear it in the crowd as well, especially the second half with Taneke and Negrin. I think they were just kind of getting sick of it. They're making the same mistakes. And it's kind of sad as well with Taneke. I was a big fan of Taneke when he came in. I thought he had a really good start. Now, he wasn't getting the goals and assists that we were looking for, but I still thought he was the most creative guy in our team. He was still trying to drive at players, but it just seems like his decision making's get worse and worse over the last couple of weeks. And you do worry for him getting in the team. Benjamin Negrin, I think, has always been a weird player in terms of performances. There's games where he doesn't perform, but he can still come up with a goal. So I kind of understood starting him, mainly because I think he can be a goal threat, but he was just terrible today. And I think Luke McCowan was more dangerous, even though maybe it was a bit irritating with the shots. He couldn't hit the target. I think he hit the target once, but I do think McCowan added more energy, and I thought he did perform a bit better. I mean, I think McCowan probably has to start either against Roma or in the cup final. But I think the wide players in general as well were an issue. That was probably the biggest issue. I thought Yang, who has actually been decent the last couple of weeks, was on the right this time. Didn't really do much. I don't think he was as bad as Taneke. Personally, I thought Taneke was more noticeable with how bad he was. But Yang definitely wasn't great either. But yeah, I can't, I do think the result today was on some of the decision making from the players. I think guys like Callum McGregor tried to drag the team through the game, and I thought, especially in the second half, he was really good, but it just wasn't coming off. Dyson Maeda, listen, he'll run for you all day. He kept making the runs. We couldn't get the final ball just wasn't good enough. But he has to bury that chance he had, and he has to do a lot better with the chances that he gets. But we know what you get with Dyson Maeda. He'll die for the badge. He'll run himself into the ground, but we know his decision making is pretty questionable most of the time. And he also had that amazing season last year, but I think most people know that's probably a one-off. And I think a lot of today's game as well comes down back to the recruitment. I know some people might be sick of probably hearing it from other people, but just the quality of some of the players just isn't there, especially the summer signings. They just aren't adding much. Negrin, I guess you could say maybe the goal contributions, he has added that this season, but a lot of the signings, man, just look like wasted money. And you do have to think there's going to need to be a lot of work done in January, but as I say, January's a tough window. It's probably going to need to be Celtic's best January window in a long time. For them to have a very successful season. I still think Celtic are the favourites for the title, even though that was a poor result tonight. But I still think Celtic can finish pretty well. But it'll also be interesting to see how the manager responds to this game and who he drops for Roma. I'm not expecting much from Roma. As much as I think Martin O'Neill's gave us a chance to get through in Europe, I can't see us picking up 3 points in Roma, or no in Roma I guess at home, but I think we just have to be competitive, and listen, if we get a point from that game that'd be pretty good. But I think you're looking at Utrecht to get the 3 points to probably see us through the Europa League. I think you'd probably be shocked if you got anything at Roma, but I think all eyes are on the cup final, and there will be a lot of pressure for Wilfried Nancy now to win that. And we struggled against St Mirren as well last time out against them in Paisley under Martin O'Neill. And maybe some of the wins kind of covered up the performances in the last couple of games. Listen, it was important we got the win, that's all that mattered, but against Hibs and especially against St Mirren, it was a very similar performance, and it was really frustrating in terms of the attacking play at times, and we barely got over the line. And I think we kind of saw that again today against Hearts, and we came up against a much better team who are more organised, and we didn't get away with it. We didn't take our chances and we got punished. And I think that's kind of the end story. But I hope the Celtic support are going to give Wilfried Nancy time. But it's definitely a poor start for him. And he's going to have to respond next week and going forward. As for Hearts, I mean, it's a great result for them. They're back in, they were already in pole position, but they go 3 points ahead. Obviously Celtic have got the game in hand. But that's going to fill Hearts with confidence, and you've got to think they're probably going to go back to winning games in a row. you would think, but Celtic have to focus on themselves, pick themselves back up, because they are still capable of having a very successful end of the season, but only time will tell how they finish in the league and like how many trophies will Celtic end up with at the end of the season. I really don't know, to be honest. I don't think anyone knows, but that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think down below, and thanks for listening.